What's up everyone, my name is Marie, welcome to my channel and welcome to another speed build. So for today I have a bit of a shorter video for you because I'm building a micro home. So this house is very small. Now I was trying to actually use the tiny home micro home tile count, which means that you can use up to 32 tiles for your entire build. In order for it to be a micro home. So that's what I tried to do at first. But I quickly gave up because the annoying thing about the tile count for tiny living is that it also counts the tiles on the exterior of your house. So for example, as you can see, I'm using a lot of platforms on the roof, and those platforms all count toward the tile count. So, I decided, you know what, I'm not gonna use the tile count. I'm just going to make sure that I'm using 32 tiles or less on the inside of the house. So the interior of this build is only, I think, 31 tiles in total. So it's actually very small on the inside. So even though it's not an actual micro home as far as the game goes when you have Tiny Living installed, I still feel like I am able to call it a micro home because it's only 31 tiles on the inside. So it's still very small. It's just the exterior that makes it so that it's more than that. I think I tried it. I think it has about just under 100 tiles in total. So you could still play with this house as a tiny home, and then it would be a small home. So that's either tier 3 or tier 1. I always get confused with those tiers. So you still get some perks from the Tiny Living pack. So yeah, it counts as a tiny home in a way. The game doesn't see it as a micro home, but I see it as a micro home, and I feel like that's the important thing for this build because I don't know what I'm saying, but I just feel like I should explain because it's not an actual micro home in the game like I just explained, but it's still very small, and I wanted to still make it look interesting and cute, and I really wanted to make something very modern like this, so it's very contemporary, and that's what I want to achieve. Like, I wanted it to be very angular and have a lot of different roof heights and things. That's really the vision that I had in mind. So that's what I went with, and that made it so that I couldn't use the actual tile count, which is a shame, but it's fine because I really like the way that this house came out. It's very small, but I feel like it has a very luxurious vibe around it, and that's probably because it's so modern. And I also used the fountain tool quite a bit. I placed a couple of little, I don't know what to call them, like ponds, but they're not really ponds. They're not as like natural as ponds. They're little fountain areas, I guess. And oops, my phone is vibrating. I'm sorry. I just got an email, which is not important right now. But yeah, anyway, that gives it a slightly luxurious vibe in my opinion. So I feel like this house is very small, but it's not very cheap. And yeah, that's definitely what I tried to achieve. I had a lot of fun with it because especially like the backyard and stuff, and like in the front yard as well, it's very manicured and very, well, yeah, again, very angular, a lot of pathways, a lot of, I don't know, it's really well thought out, and that's definitely what I'm enjoying about this build. I was struggling a lot with how I wanted the backyard and the front yard of the house to look. I was struggling with it for the longest time. I always have a bit of a hard time blending tiny homes or micro homes like this into a regular neighborhood. I never really know where to build them. For example, I built this one in Newcrest, which is a very, I guess, basic family-oriented world, and this neighborhood as well. It's very suburban, I guess. And this house is not. This house is really weird. It's a tiny home. It's a very contemporary, modern-looking tiny home. It makes no sense, and it has no business being in this neighborhood. I built it here anyway because I never really know where to build these things. I usually go for like, for example, the island in Windenburg because there is not a whole lot of neighboring houses. You're just kind of on your own on those lots. So you don't really have to blend it in with any other houses. But this one, I didn't want it to be very isolated like that. Like I wanted it to be in an actual neighborhood. So I decided to just build it here in Newcrest. But of course you can place it wherever you want it to. I think it's a 20 by 15 lot that I'm building on, or a 30 by 20, but I think it's a 20 by 15. I'm not sure. It's a smaller lot though, so you can just place the house wherever you want to. Yeah, I wanted to really just try and make it work in this quote unquote regular neighborhood in Newcrest, and it's a little bit weird. I was having a hard time blending it in, but I still feel like it works. It's just its own little house, and I don't know, in some way it kind of works. So you can see that we have moved on to the interior of the house. And I was struggling with the color scheme in here a little bit for the kitchen. You can see that at first I tried to go for an all black kitchen with gray, but it was just a little bit too dark to my liking. So I quickly changed the color scheme a little bit. And I used a mini fridge in here because it just made a little bit more sense. I think that the larger fridges in micro homes always look a little bit silly because they take up so much space. And then half your house is a fridge basically. So I used a little fridge, a tiny fridge, what's it called? Mini fridge. Oh my God, I completely lost the word. A mini fridge in this house. And I also used a Murphy bed, which I never do that. Like I literally never use the Murphy beds because I don't actually really know why. I always end up having the space for either a regular bed or, yeah, I just don't feel the need to use a Murphy bed. But for this house, I did use the Murphy bed and I really like it because I definitely didn't have space for a kitchen, a little dining area, a living area, and a bedroom or sleeping area. So I had to make sacrifices. So I immediately decided that I wanted to make use of the Murphy bed for this house. And it actually works out perfectly fine. I really like the way that it looks in here. I used a whole lot of tiny living items for this build in general, which makes sense because it's a tiny home. So yeah, the items from tiny living were just really, really useful for this. And I had a lot of fun with it. Here you can see I cluttered up the kitchen a little bit. I loved having that window space for clutter as well because the kitchen is so small and there aren't any cabinets or anything. So there's not that much storage space in this house. So I feel like that little window that I could clutter up made sense because you definitely need all the space that you can get for this house. So yeah, that's what I did. And I had a lot of fun with this house, like I said 1,000 times. Sometimes it's just so fun to build something so small and so quick. And I was gonna say easy, but this house was not easy for me, like I explained already. But yeah, I really like the way that it came out. It's just quirky and modern. And most definitely not to everyone's liking. I can completely understand if you don't like this type of house. It's definitely not the style of house that I would go for in real life myself. Like I don't really like houses that are this modern, this contemporary. However, this one still looks kind of cozy on the inside though. But yeah, I am more of I don't know what kind of houses I like. More traditional houses, more like farmhouse type things is what I really enjoy. Modern farmhouses though, I think are my favorite ones in real life as well. So I definitely like it when houses are a little bit more renovated, a little bit more modern, but still have that, like that, I don't know, traditional like or original character, like modern farmhouses. I don't know. I think that's something I would go for in real life myself. This one is definitely not a farmhouse. This one is a very, very modern. And like I said, one thing that was bugging me a little bit about this build is that there is barely any storage space, and that's just not realistic. I know that in The Sims, you don't need storage space. Your Sims are okay without it. But I feel like in order to be able to make a house look realistic, you need some like closets or some cabinets or some, I don't know, somewhere where you can place stuff. And in this house, I didn't really have that. So I did size down a dresser from base game, the new dresser that we got with the 21st anniversary update items, which I think is really, really cool. And I think that that dresser also looks perfectly fine when you size it down once. It makes sense in here. I don't know. I like it, but that dresser is basically the only thing where you can store things in this house. And that's not very realistic, but at the same time, I just tried to just go with it because it's The Sims, it's not real life, and I just couldn't make it work. It was too small. The house was too small. I couldn't fit any other cabinets or anything. So yeah, I tried to work with all the space that I had. And yeah, I also used that wall-mounted TV from Tiny Living that also works as a bookcase and a stereo, I believe. And then I also placed another bookcase next to that, to the Murphy bed. I actually used the Murphy bed that already has a bookcase attached to it. I feel like the only thing I did is I put it on the other side. But yeah, like you can see, I used a lot of items from Tiny Living. And I know the living room area feels a little bit cramped, so it kind of feels like you can't use the Murphy bed, but you can. I thought it was gonna have issues with it, but I play tested it. And my sim could put down the Murphy bed and she could actually still walk around it as well. I felt like you would have to like teleport your sim to the other side to be able to use the bathroom, for example, but it wasn't the case. My sim could walk around it, which I was amazed by that. So you should be fine in that regard as well, as long as you turn on bb.move objects before you place it down, but that always goes for all of my builds. You always have to activate bb.move objects, or else stuff probably will get removed or placed somewhere else or placed all funky. I don't really know what happens, but I just know that you have to activate bb.move objects. And then you should be fine Murphy bed wise. Maybe it's different for you, but like I just explained, you could always just teleport your sim to the other side, or you could remove the chair that I placed next to the TV, like by the window. If you just remove that, then you should be fine anyway, like in any case. But here you can see that we have actually already moved on to the backyard. This backyard is pretty big, but I like that about it. I wanted it to be very luxurious, so I placed a pool and also a nice area to sit, and I also put down a yoga mat so you have an extra skill building item, and I just felt like the sim that would live here would probably be very much into yoga. I feel like that's just the kind of sim that they are. But yeah, that was actually already it for the backyard of this house as well. And we moved on to the front area. I was gonna say front porch, but this is not a porch, it's just the front yard or whatever you wanna call it. I placed a bike instead of a car on here because the car took up a lot of space. I tried it. I tried a car from Debug, but it just didn't really work. But that's about it for this house already. So let's go into the game and I'll show you the house in real time. So here we have the house in game. It's very small, as you can see. There's not much to show you because you just watched the speed build. But here you can see that here we have the quote-unquote driveway. I tried, like I explained in the speed build as well, I tried to put a Debug car on there, but the car was just a little bit too big and you couldn't get a good look at the front of the house. So I decided to not place a car there and just put a bike. But you can walk through here into the backyard. So there is two possibilities for you to enter the backyard, but here you can see that there is a very nice closed in backyard with a dining table and a grill and a nice place to sit and hang out with your friends, and also a spacious pool. So I thought that that was really nice and very luxurious. But then when you walk into the house, this is it. This is all. I counted the tiles again and it's only 31 tiles in total on the inside, so it's very, very small. And here we have the living room area with the Murphy bed. Like I explained in the speed build, everything is functional. As long as you activate bb.move objects, then you should be fine. But over here we have the tiny little dining table with the bar stools. I put a laptop on there so you could use this as a dining table, but also as a desk if you need to. And then here we have the very small and yeah, nice nice and cluttered kitchen. And then over here, of course, we also have a tiny bathroom. It's only 2 tiles, so there is a shower and a toilet in here, but no sink. So to wash your hands, you're just gonna have to use the sink in the kitchen, but that should all be fine. That is actually it for this house. So this modern micro home comes in at 36,640 simoleons. So as always, not very cheap, but also not very expensive. So this should be fairly easy to save up for. It only fits up to 2 Sims in total though, so you can't really start a family here. But that's actually it for this video. So I really hope that you enjoyed this build. You can definitely go ahead and download it off the gallery if you want to. My username on the gallery is Simmarysims. You can also follow me on Twitter and on Instagram if you'd like. My username on there is Simmarysims as well. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, feel free to do so. And if you want to be notified of every single time I upload a video, just make sure to click that little bell and you should be fine there as well. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!